in a lot of questions, and after I printed it out, I thought, oh, I should ask this and this and this, and, you know, there's a lot of other things in there. It's really, it's a very neat book, considering that it does not have the name God in it anywhere. And that's one of the things she brought out too. So other than Esther, is there anything that really stood out to you this week versus that stood out for us or whatever? Nothing? All right, well, we'll start off with Ezra. Actually, it should be Ezra/Nehemiah, because it used to be, originally, they were all one book. I don't know when it was split into two, whether that was in 324, whatever, when they put the books together, what we have as our Bible now, or if it was the Jewish people, you know, a long time ago. I don't have any idea. But we're going to talk through the first part of Ezra, and then we'll be jumping to Zechariah. But who was Ezra? And I'm not even sure we read that yet. That may be what you read tomorrow, or whenever we go back to Ezra again.
He was a scribe.
He was a scribe. He was a direct descendant of Aaron. He was not a priest, probably because he was too young. Most people think he was around 20, maybe 22, and they didn't become active priests until 30. So from 30 to 50, and I think that was it. So he wasn't a priest, but he was a scribe. He was a biblical scholar. What was his main job? What did God call him to do? I know I've got Zerubbabel first on our thing. Remember his main task? And I know she mentioned it, but I think they talk about it again tomorrow. He was to teach the people, teach them the Word of God. You know, when the king decided to send him back, King Ahasuerus and others decided to send him back and let anybody that wanted to go to Jerusalem. They wanted to rebuild the temple and all that stuff. They needed somebody to teach them. And so he sent Ezra to do that. Zerubbabel, who was he? What was his title? Remember? Yeah, he was like the governor. Who was the priest at that time? That was Yeshua at first. But Zerubbabel, what was his main task? What did God put in there to do?
Rebuild the temple.
To rebuild the temple, right? And then Nehemiah, we'll get to that next week, or this coming week. But his main task was to rebuild the wall. And we'll hear all about that. But all of this is the story of how they get everything back, rebuilt and renewed back after the captivity. According to Ezra 1:3, what charge does God give King Cyrus of Persia? To rebuild the temple, that's right. And what's kind of noteworthy, what's unusual about this? I mean, who was Cyrus? No, he was not a Jew.
He was the king of Persia.
King of Persia and a pagan. He was not a follower of God, and yet God put it in his heart to have the temple rebuilt, and he even paid for it. And then they get there and they lay the foundation, and it talks about how when they got the foundation laid, that the younger people were, joyful and they were shouting for joy. The older people were crying. Yeah, why? They'd seen it before.
Wasn't built to David's blueprint.
Well, this new one is supposed to be. I mean, they're following David's blueprints. It's just not there yet. It's just the
Fall
foundation.
short of the first temple.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is just remember what all had happened, and the fact that the temple had been destroyed, and maybe worried that it wouldn't be as nice as the old one, wouldn't be as beautiful as the old one. What do we learn from all of that? I think sometimes we get, and the older I get, the more I experience this, but we kind of romanticize the past. We start thinking about how much better it was back then and not remembering the bad stuff that we went through. Kind of like when they left Egypt and they kept going, let's go back to Egypt because we had leeks and onions and we had all of this stuff, but they forgot about the slavery part. And sometimes we do that. We start thinking about how much better things used to be, and we don't really focus on here and now and what God is doing here and now and how He wants to bless us. So Zerubbabel and Joshua, he's the priest at the time, and they didn't let the local people that were there rebuild the temple. I mean, they came back and they started laying the foundation and rebuilding the temple. And the people that lived there, remember, they came from other nations. That's the way they did things. They took all the Jewish people and moved them to a different place, and then brought people from other nations in to live there. And they said, "Oh, well, we've been worshiping God too. Let's help build the temple." And Zerubbabel and Joshua would not let them. Why? They weren't Jews.
So if they weren't, they didn't know the specifications.
Right. And I think that if they would have allowed them, they would have been trying to make changes.
Yeah.
But what excuse? Do you remember what excuse they gave them? Kind of. They basically said, Cyrus told us to do it, not you. He said, Cyrus told the Jews that were living there they can come back and rebuild it, but you have no part of that because you weren't Jewish, you weren't in exile. And then there was a bunch of people that came there that came with them, but could not prove their bloodline. Why is that important?
Well, they didn't know which property was theirs.
Right. They would have to know that.
And only certain people could be priests.
Only certain people could be priests and Levites, and if they didn't have all of that, they couldn't serve in those capacities. That was a lot of it. So the people that lived around there, and this may be partially due to the fact that they wouldn't let them help rebuild the temple, but they tried to stop it every time you turn around. So what did they do every time a new king took over?
They tried to stop to the building.
Right? And how did they do that?
Get back the officials.
And they wrote a letter. Yeah. We've got several of those in there. It's more like a petition than a letter. The first one basically said, hey, these people are rebellious, and if you check, you will find out that they are rebellious, and they need to stop. And the king said, stop right now, even by force if necessary. And so the people stopped. And I think it was almost 7 years before they started up again. And then, we'll get to this in a moment, but when Zechariah and Haggai started prophesying, then they started rebuilding again. right toward the end of what we read, that part of Ezra, it said that they searched the archives. I'm sorry, this is a different place where I'm looking at. One of the letters, when they sent back, they said, well, the Jewish people said that King Cyrus told them to rebuild this. So you check that out then. And what did they find out when they did check that out? Did Cyrus tell them to rebuild the temple?
Jews.
Tell the Jews, yes.
Yeah.
He did tell the Jews to rebuild the temple, and what else did he put in there? That was the surprising part.
To rebuild it 6 times larger. is that-
6 times larger, and
And to be paid for from the royal treasury.
yeah, the royal treasury paid for it. Even the sacrifices that they needed. He's going to pay for everything. That'd be kind of unusual, especially nowadays, but to have the king or the governor, the president, whatever, say, oh, yeah, we're going to build you a brand new church, and we'll pay for it, and pay for everything you need in it. Yeah, it's not going to happen now, right? It's just a different day and time, I guess. Anything else about Ezra? Because we'll finish it. You read the first 3 chapters, and then we'll read the other 4 or 5, whatever it is. I think it starts tomorrow. Haggai. What particular sin did Haggai confront the people about?
They were unclean, their hearts were unclean.
Their hearts were unclean. Yeah. Anything else?
I actually read it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that was in Haggai, but yes, they did do that.
Did what?
We married foreign women.
Oh, that was in the
I think
first, that was the
that's-
last part of Ezra, yeah.
That's part of Ezra. I
They
probably
told
agree.
them to separate from their foreign wives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, also, they weren't necessarily divorced, a lot of them were married, they were
Yeah.
pregnant, so he basically was saying, break up, because you're not married anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Was it God telling them to divorce their wives or break up with their wives? Or is that just something that the leadership decided?
Leadership, I think
Probably
it
the
was
leadership.
The leadership decided that. They didn't ask God. They just said, oh, yeah, we shouldn't be married, so you all need to divorce them, yeah, you have to really think through that one about whether that was really God's will or that was just their will. Could have been either one. I mean, it could have been that God put it in their hearts that they should do that, or it could be that they just decided on their own, this is how we take care of it. They had also, in Haggai, he also confronted them about the fact that they lived in nice houses and the temple wasn't finished. 7 years, remember? I understand, when they quit because they were forced to quit, but then they just got caught up in getting their own homes ready and doing all that stuff and ignored the rest of the temple. They had the foundation, and that was about it, I think. They may have had some of the walls, but it was definitely not finished. And then the other one, and she talked about this in her podcast. If the holiness of God's presence can be transmitted through the priest's robes, why can't the holiness of the meat be transferred to other foods?
Because the food was holy because it was set apart for sacrifice.
Right? What made the priest's garments holy?
Because they had been,
They were in the presence of God.
presence of God.
Yeah, so it was God's presence that made the garments holy and made the priest holy. The food was just, we're just going to set this aside for sacrifice, so it is set aside for that. But it wasn't purified by the presence of God. And something unholy, mar, or whatever, something that is holy. Can the unholiness be transferred to something holy?
Yes.
Yes, very easily, right? It's, used to tell kids, my youth, and I get a fairly strong, football player or whatever, put them up on top of a stage like this and have one of the girls down here below and say, see if you can pull him down. And it wasn't hard. I mean, big as they are, it's much easier to pull somebody down than it is to pick them up. Yeah. And I just remember that every time I think about this. So, Zechariah, in verse 1-6, what happened during the exile?
They repented.
Okay? They repented. In fact, it says that they said that the Lord has done what our ways and our practices deserve. That's a good sign, right? I think that was one we talked about, one of the things that Daniel was really worried about, because they were getting ready to go back, and he was upset probably because he didn't see the repentance in them at all. So that's a good thing. And what does the message that the nations had to those people who had opposed Israel? Just one word. Oh, anyone? It was judgment. He was going to judge all of the nations for the way they treated Israel. And one of them was, yes, I used you to punish Israel, to discipline Israel, but you went way beyond what you should have done, and so you're going to be punished.
Told them that they touching the apple of his eye when
Yes.
they touched Israel.
Yeah. The apple of his eye. That's, you know where that little phrase came from? It's from the
Chapter
Bible.
2 and verse 8.
Chapter 2, verse 8. The flying scroll, they only mention two sins, theft and lying. Why do you think those are the only two mentioned?
Represented sins against the neighbors and sins against God.
Yes, it is represented both sins against other people, sins against God. I think also those are ones that we think we get away with. We stretch the truth a lot, which is lying. We, a lot of times take things, whether it be ideas or whatever, used to be downloading music or downloading videos or things like that you're not supposed to. We do those things, and it's stuff that we like to hide. And maybe that's also why he put it up there. And then he saw a vision. There was 9 visions altogether in Zechariah. The flying basket. There was a woman inside the flying basket. What did that woman represent?
Wickedness.
Wickedness. And where did it go? Where was the basket taken?
Landed in Babylonia.
In Babylon, yeah.
Babylon, where the evil came from.
It's where the evil came from. It's also the future side of the Antichrist's reign is Babylon. How big was the basket? You all remember that? She mentioned that. I never even thought about it.
Well, they had a person in it.
Yeah.
Very big.
No, that's why it's probably not a real person. It's like
20
a,
cubits.
yeah,
What
it's like a trash bag, a
in
trash can.
length.
20?
What do you see? So I answered, I see a flying scroll. Its length is 20 cubits and its width 10 cubits.
Yeah, that's the scroll, the basket.
Yeah. The basket?
Yeah,
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's the scroll.
yeah, I was thinking the basket was really small. I don't have that out here. But yeah, the scroll. Okay. What kind of scroll was it?
It was parchment,
Parchment, how do we know?
because you can be written on both sides.
Written on both sides, front and back, and you can't do that with animal skin. Which I think you probably could nowadays, but they said it was too rough to write on. But anyway.
So you'd be writing on the inner part of the dermis rather than on the outside where the
Right.
fur was.
Yeah. And, but I think, what my grandson, the leather he uses is really, really soft all around, so. That's why I wondered if you could do it nowadays, if they tan differently or whatever. And then it talked about a couple of things. He described a crown being placed on Joshua the priest. Why is that significant?
Because Jesus is the Greek term for Josh.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is, Joshua is the same name as Jesus. Yeah, it's the same name there. So it does point forward to Jesus, but why a crown on a priest? What's significant about having a crown on a priest?
Well, priests didn't usually have the crown.
No.
It was the king that had the crown.
The king had wore a crown and the priest wore
didn't
a
use,
turban.
usually the king and the priest.
Yeah. And yet Jesus was both king and our high priest. And also there was another thing, it talked about the king getting, what was it? I just went for it. The king was given something.
Branch,
Was it just the branch?
branch,
He was given something, and it was like, okay, this is another crossover between,
The old man whose name is the branch.
Christ.
yeah. And the branch is definitely talking about Jesus.
Mm-hmm. It's in capital letters, big capital letters.
What chapter is that?
That's chapter 6 and verse 12.
Thank you, Mark. Let's see if I can find that.
From his place he shall branch out, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. He shall build the temple of the Lord. He shall bear the glory. He shall sit and rule on his throne.
Yeah.
So he shall be a priest on his throne, and the council of peace shall be between them both.
It definitely talked about Jesus. And
But talking about Christ as priest and king, he was not of the tribe of Levi.
right, he was not, but he is our high priest too, even though he was not from the tribe of Levi. Yes. Okay, there's something in there, I don't find it. Zechariah shepherds a flock of sheep that were getting ready to be slaughtered. And he was given some money for that. How much? Why is that significant?
Because that's what Judas
Got
also got.
And what happened to that 30 pieces of silver
Threw
that
it in.
Zechariah got?
He threw it in the temple.
He gave it back to the temple.
People's contempt.
And he said, in fact, God told him, said, throw it to the potter. The handsome price at which they priced me. So I took the 36 pieces of silver and threw them into the house of the Lord to the potter. This is, a long time before Jesus, 450, 500 years before Jesus was born. What happened when Judas got the 30 pieces of silver?
See what happened
Mhm.
when he got
What did he do with it?
He threw it back and they bought the potter's field.
He threw it back into the temple.
and then
They picked it up and they said, well, we can't put this in the treasury because it's blood money. So what do we do with it? Well, let's go buy this potter's
buried him in
field.
the potter's field.
And what are they going to do with that? It's a burial place for foreigners or for strangers. And it was prophesied, like I said, 450, 500 years before Jesus was born.
Well, that other thing you're looking for now, the elaborate crown shall be for a memorial in the temple.
Yeah, that wasn't it. I was thinking that he was given something or told something that normally was just for the priests. And when I read it, I thought, oh yeah, I'll remember that. No, I don't remember else, I kind of jumped around real, all over the place on those, but
It's helped. Mm-hmm. Study
Zechariah,
Okay,
Zechariah emphasizes the Lord of hosts throughout the book.
and what does that mean?
He's God over all, probably all of the angels.
Angel army, yeah, I heard the host was the angel army, or all the angels. Now, if I find it, I will tell you all and speak about that.